Welcome back to Hardball. We've got three late-breaking stories right now relating to the Trump-Russia investigation. Byron York of the Washington Examiner is reporting on the genesis of that opposition research that eventually produced the dossier on Donald Trump. Quote, the conservative publication Washington Free Beacon informed the House Intelligence Committee today that the organization was the original funder for the anti-Trump opposition research project with Fusion GPS. Wow, that's a blockbuster. Thereafter, as we learned this week, the Clinton campaign and the DNC picked up the tab. The Free Beacon has also now confirmed that they were responsible, but say that none of the work they received from Fusion appears in the Steele dossier. Separately, NBC News is exclusively reporting tonight that former CIA Director James Woolsey has been interviewed by the special counsel's investigators to discuss his allegation that Michael Flynn proposed a potentially illegal plan to send a Turkish cleric back to Turkey from the U.S. against his will. NBC News also reports that former Trump advisor Carter Page, there he is, met with the Senate Intelligence Committee today for 5 hours. I'm joined right now by NBC's investigative reporter Ken Delaney. First of all, the Washington Free Press, that's a Bill Kristol operation, a neocon operation, if you will. Why were they investigating Trump?
Well, Chris, the New York Times is reporting this hour that that publication is funded by Paul Singer, who's a New York hedge fund billionaire who supported Marco Rubio. Now, the Times says that Singer also had no knowledge of the dossier. And as you said, the Free Beacon says in their statement that they hired Fusion GPS to do opposition research on Trump, but they had nothing to do with the dossier, with Christopher Steele, that former British intelligence operative, or anything to do with the Russia research, according to them, Chris.
Well, who was putting out the word that was a Republican candidate? We all got the idea it was a candidate, one of the candidates against. Remember, we were going after Marco Rubio, and he denied it. How did that trail lead to another Republican candidate rather than this neoconservative organization?
Well, look, Singer, the bankroll of this publication was a Rubio supporter, so maybe that's the germ of it. Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask you about Jim Woolsey's testifying. Jim Woolsey's been a major player in this town. What about this thing that Michael Flynn he's bringing up, where Michael Flynn apparently suggested or went along with some Turkish plan to reclaim one of their nationals here in the United States against his will?
Here's why this is significant, Chris. We've known that Michael Flynn has a Russia problem. It's also pretty clear he has a Turkey problem. He was paid more than $500,000 to lobby on behalf of the government of Turkey. And he had this meeting, according to the former CIA Director Woolsey, where, according to Woolsey, a plan was discussed to send this cleric back, a potentially illegal plan. Now we know that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is investigating this as part of his probe into Flynn. And we know that because Woolsey is telling us in a statement that he's been interviewed by the FBI and by FBI agents working for Robert Mueller, Chris.
Well, you know this, especially the spy stuff, Ken, but this looks like a scene from The Americans where they grab somebody and, exfiltrate him, if you will, against his will. It sounds like kidnapping.
It's incredible. That's exactly what it sounds like. But, don't forget, Mike Flynn became the national security advisor, and there was a proposal on the table. The Turkish government wants to extradite this cleric through legal means. And so an open question is, what did Mike Flynn do when he got in the government to advance this cause, Chris?
Okay, let me ask you about the Senate Intel Committee going after Carter Page, the one that I call the Cato Kalin of this affair. It's never clear to me what role Carter Page played in anything except sort of being around. Here he is walking away after his testimony today.
You're absolutely right. I'm in regular email correspondence with Carter Page, and he completely denies any collusion with Russia. But he did take that trip to Moscow in 2016, and he made what's been described as a pro-Russia speech while he was advising the Trump campaign. And I think it's interesting that they talked to him, the Senate Intelligence Committee did, for something like 5 hours, we're reporting. He's got something that they're interested in.
What do you make of the Trump people's charge that Hillary Clinton was somehow in cahoots with the Russians with regard to the uranium deal and also with regard to the dossier?
Look, it's bogus. In terms of that Uranium One thing, look, it's a story that doesn't look good for the Clintons because they got money while this thing was going through the government, but there's no evidence that she played any role in approving that sale of a Canadian uranium company to a Russian uranium company.
And the uranium wasn't going to Russia. And the uranium wasn't going to Russia anyway.
It's staying in the United States, absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And comparing her to the Rosenbergs, unbelievable. Anyway, Ken Delaney, thank you for the great Friday night reporting. Up next, there's a lot to go.